it becomes established as law. Eugene used to talk about the fact that the first time you do something, you make an indentation. If you keep doing it, you engrave it into you, and if you keep going, it becomes a grave, and you can't climb out. Whether it's smoking or whatever it is, even if it's a good habit, he said, the filthy habit becomes a grave and you can't get out. Pardon?
You can't self-condemn yourself to that extent. Sure, there must be something.
Well, what he actually said was that if you set good habits to overlay bad habits, don't get caught on the good habits because they become bad merely by trapping you. So in other words, it's the trappedness, it's the fixity of this. It's not being able to see that the laws are made for the people rather than the people for the laws. One of the people that in Greek myth, Procrustes, was said to actually fasten people to a bed and cut them to the right size so they fitted his bed. We say that law is Procrustean, when people are forced to fit the law rather than the laws to fit human beings. Now, here in this Oberon hook Titania belt here is the mutable. They're extremely mutable. Oberon rules this with hook by disturbing things, by changing things, allowing things to be mixed up and rewoven. So you go out into that place and come back in. Just like the yogis say, you go from awake through the dream into the deep sleep and you come back renewed. You're not the same person that went to sleep. And you can do that deliberately, and that in fact forms of yoga meditation are to actually take yourself through into that realm, first of all, and see which vrittis, which fixations you have from this embedded inside of yourself, and then into that so that you can release them. Now there are 4 syllables, and we've only talked about 3. The 4th one is the white paper, which is the unformed, the completely emptiness of consciousness itself. So these are aspects of consciousness in different levels, but consciousness itself is the white paper on which even the formless is written. Can you follow that? Mm-hmm. The 3 letters which they use are form. So that's the awakened, that's the dream state, and that's the formless. And in that sense, you've got the behind it is often shown as a dot behind it, which is considered to be the space in which it moves. It has its being. So those things are the things which I consider that are embedded in the plot that Shakespeare is giving to us here. Does everyone follow that?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Any questions about this bit? Because we're going to go on to the next bit, which is the bit of the mechanicals play. I'm sorry I'm rushing through a little bit, but we've got a good chance of getting to the end of it if we speed up just a little bit. Have we got any questions about this? Anything about this which I haven't explained or that you're uneasy with?
I just found it interesting about the crow, the eagle, and the owl.
Yes.
Now those 3 just reminded me of a conversation I had with Eugene. He said that when you are singing, you don't sing just all miserable songs. He said you first of all, you perhaps do a very sad song, and then you do the Jupiter, and then you do the 3 ways all the time. So when you're performing, so that the audience is lifted up in different levels of their being by what you are performing and what you're actually talking about, singing about. And I found that absolutely fascinating when you said the crow, the eagle, and the owl in that respect.
Well, this is perfect actually. So you look at what we're going to go on to next then, because what we've got in the play, because Shakespeare is talking, as we've said, to at least 3 levels of people, the nobility, the merchant class, and the peasants.
Yes.
We've heard him talking, Theseus talks in Latin-based words, and to do with political correctness and establishment order. Then the other members of nobility, the younger sector, speak in more sort of, we would class as being standard English. The next bunch of guys, the mechanicals that come in, speak in very clipped, down-to-earth, rural dialect. And Shakespeare gives them all in their dialect. So he's actually hitting us at different levels with the language. So he's moving between those two levels. And of course he keeps moving between the different levels in the play to keep us interested. So the mandala is present. This is a mandala which I picked from Sheila's idea, Margaret's idea of seeing the play like this, which is one way of presenting the whole play in one image. But of course what Shakespeare actually does is he mixes and matches, so we'll get different parts coming in at any time. Now he gives us that play, and it's almost complete when they got married, because Theseus and Hippolyta hunting together are obviously by this time, by the language towards each other, reconciled to each other. Theseus is very caring, and they're discussing things philosophically together, and he is considering her opinions as she answers. So those two are melded together. Then we come across the lovers who are all literally together in the forest, having been through all the trials and tribulations, having arguments, having fights with each other. They've literally settled down, the magic has been taken off the eyes, and they've woken up to find that they are with the one they want to be with. Bearing in mind that Demetrius and Helena are still magically, not Helena, she's been in love with Demetrius all the way through, but his eyes have been distorted with the magic potion. So his innate response mechanisms have been turned towards her. Theseus and Hippolyta meet with them. They recognise that these people have found the right person to be with. The people actually say that this is the one we want to be with. Anything you can do, Theseus? And he says, yep, let's all get married together this afternoon. I mean, it is a play. You can do this. And he is the Duke. So, that evening, we next see them after the marriage ceremony. They, not with the rush onto the honeymoon, they're going to have plays. Okay? And the plays are, of course, the mechanicals. And they go through a whole list of things, and it's called the most tedious tragedy. It's described really well, and everybody says, oh, we can't. And Theseus says, we've got to, because they've done it sincerely, and we must listen to it sincerely, because anything that's brought sincerely has to be with the right motive, and deserves looking at. So, bearing in mind that bottom is the weaver. He's the one who is unformed, yet completely egotistical, totally over the top in terms of his acting, etc. The other mechanicals are clumsy with theatrical devices. Shakespeare is here, he's ridiculing his own friends and players, and he's putting this on overlay really heavily to show us literally how you can make such a terrible mess of a play. But bear in mind that this is exactly the same story. Pyramus and Thisbe were kept apart by a wall. Interesting because wall has the same root as moral, in which Murals, it tells you that the whole thing is to do with the fact of separation. And in the story of Pyramus and Thisbe, and Pyramus are separated by a wall. They meet and talk through a hole in the wall, which is played beautifully by the actors and really made a thing of. A lion comes into the situation, and Thisbe drops her scarf, her mantle, and runs away. And the lion pounces on it, tears it to shreds, and gets blood from its mouth on the scarf. And then the lion goes away. Of course, Pyramus finds the scarf and thinks that his lady love has been killed, eaten by the lion. So he kills himself with his sword. Thisbe comes back, finds him, and she kills herself with the same sword. But that's Romeo and Juliet. It's exactly the same thing. You know, it's mistaken identity. And what Shakespeare is saying is that this is a tragedy. It is also extremely ridiculous, but human beings die like this. Human beings get desperately tagged and desperately caught up with their feelings in this way. And if you separate them from what they think is their true love, it can cause tremendous problems.